I thought Sussan Ley did very well in her press conference today. She was very confident, stepped her way around a number of tricky issues. Here's just a little bit of what she had to say.
I am humbled, I am honoured, and I am up for the job. Every day we will stand up for our values to anyone, anywhere, and we'll do it in the public debate and we'll do it in the Parliament.
Now, it is true, Susie, that she hasn't been a powerful political force. She's been deputy leader. She hasn't really led any arguments on any particular issues. But then again, she has been deputy leader and a shadow minister. She's got the leadership now. There is an opportunity, isn't there, to you've just got to seize the moment and run with it. You never know what she could do.
And it was interesting too when she was asked about nuclear and she was asked about climate, and she did sort of sidestep and she said, you know, she's not going to make the captain's pick and say what should happen as of now, unlike Angus Taylor. So I think we will see someone who will, in time, certainly unite the party, be a much more moderate voice, be a lot more consultative. And look, the only way is up for the Liberals, and they desperately need to get back up there.
Well, it's horrible when there's an embarrassing image to go with a political defeat, and there are a lot of nasty people showing this footage around the place today, Stephen, of Angus Taylor. Just terrible of my producer to put that in the rundown, but he tried to open the wrong door. He tried to pull the wrong lever here when it came to the leadership. Do you think that he'll unite now behind Sussan Ley, or is this going to be trouble down the track?
Look, I don't know. Look, I think this is going to be a very divided party room. But what the coverage fails to tell you is he was one of about 6 or 7 that tried the wrong door, because it's clearly the normal door that they go in. So, you know, I mean, let's call it for what it is. But I want to go back to what Sussan Ley said there. She said, we'll stand up for our values. What are the Liberal Party's values now? I mean, you know, that was the problem, that nobody knows what the Liberal Party stands for anymore. So it's all well and good to say you're going to stand up for values, but then sidestep all of those values when you're asked about them. So, look, I have no hope that this is going to be a good move for the Liberal Party. I think it's going to be incredibly divided. As I said, this is the factional bosses in New South Wales installing their pick, and this is not about gender or male, female or otherwise. This is about the factional bosses picking their person for the leadership so that they can dole out jobs to their underlings. So what it means is the Liberal Party has learnt nothing from this. We all say, you know, they've got to listen to the voter, but what we really mean is they should listen to us, the commentators, who aren't listening to the voters ourselves. So let's be fair dinkum about what's happened here.
Yeah. I hope they're not listening to the factional power brokers, the Photius clan. I do want to point out something that Chris Bowen tweeted today about Ted O'Brien, who's become the Deputy Liberal leader. And Chris Bowen said that O'Brien is the author of the Coalition's spectacular failure of a $600 billion nuclear policy. They don't seem to be listening to Australians. Susie, this bloke has just been sworn in again as minister, and he's still pumping out absolute lies about the nuclear option. It doesn't give us much hope for the future, does it?
Well, you know, who knows what the Liberals are going to do? I mean, there was no overwhelming endorsement of that policy from Sussan Ley today. But what's interesting is that people do seem to be in agreement that the Liberal Party did not properly enunciate their plan for nuclear during the election campaign. In fact, they seem to be running a mile from it. So if they are going to stick with it, then, and no doubt they need to, then they need to properly enunciate what it's going to look like, how it's going to help, how it's going to impact on energy prices, what it's going to mean, like really flesh this out. It's not something they can just drop in and expect people to be on board for something that big. That's like a nation-building, generational idea.
But it's not just about politics, it's about reality and policy. And they and the media need to do more about pointing out, Stephen, that what we're doing at the moment is a disaster. There is no way known that our current electricity grid will see lower prices or get us to net zero or give us the power we need.
And I think 3 years from now, that'll become even more evident than it is today. So, I mean, maybe that's the best thing that has happened to the coalition here, is that Chris Bowen has been reappointed as the Energy Minister. They're going to keep pushing this $600 billion line. But I think the best thing the coalition could do is actually pivot here and change their nuclear policy to simply lifting the moratorium and saying, OK, well, if you don't want the people to own nuclear production, well, then let's open it up to industry. And then, further down the track, if that works, we'll then go back and revisit the idea of publicly owned nuclear generation, which I know a lot of people are talking about this being illiberal and anti-conservative. It's not. I mean, that's the reality of it, that
we need
governments can own stuff.
Exactly, but better if it's privately funded and invested in. Thanks so much for joining us, Stephen and Susie. I appreciate it. We'll catch you next week.